Let's talk about Russia. The Russia we see today is what was left from the old Soviet Union. The country President Reagan once called the evil empire. The Soviets are gone, but the evil is still there, ruling in Russia, but with a new face. Russia was and still is the main arms supplier of Assad, who in return let the Russians have military bases in Syria, on land and sea. The most important one is the naval base in the city port of Tartus. The Russians lost a major Arab ally lately, Gaddafi of Libya, and lost another one 10 years ago, Saddam Hussein of Iraq. It looks and sounds like they will not give up Assad easily, as he is the last Arab leader they can call a friend. The Russian Secretary of State, Lavrov, is now also called the Syrian Secretary of State in charge, because he makes more statements on behalf of Syria than his Syrian counterpart. The Russian ambassador to the Security Council twice vetoed resolutions that would stop the crimes of Assad against the Syrians. China. Communist China is the second arms supplier to the Assad regime. It was and still is one of the major countries in the world where human lives have no value. Therefore, talking about human rights in China would sound like a joke. We all still remember the massacre of 1989 in Tiananmen Square, where the regime brought in the tanks and killed thousands of students who were asking for freedom and democracy. China today is not different from that China. It's still a supporter of the most evil regimes in the world, like those of Iran, Burma, and North Korea. It has a lot of economic projects and investment in Syria, and it will not give up the Assad regime easily. Their ambassador to the Security Council backed his Russian counterpart in voting twice against the resolution that would stop the crimes of Assad in Syria. Let's talk now about Assad minor supporters. North Korea. This second member of President Bush's axis of evil is also known to sell weapons to Assad, supply him with nuclear technology, and help him on the ground. Cuba under the two Castros and Venezuela under Chavez have been also known as Assad's closest allies and friends in many fields, militarily and financially. Close friends of Assad from those who passed away were Gaddafi of Libya and Milosevic of Serbia. Now, from the friends and allies of Assad, you can tell what kind of regime Syria had for the last 44 years. All the good guys. Now let's talk about an interesting issue here. The Israeli factor. As we said, Israel is located southwest of Syria. A lot of insiders, including me, myself, believe that Israel wants the Assad regime to survive. Some of you may ask, how can that happen while Israel is still in a state of war with Syria? Well, here is the story. Back in 1967, there was a war between Israel and the Arab world. As a result of that war, Syria lost part of its land to Israel, which is the Golan Heights. Israel has been occupying the Golan Heights for the last Syria has been occupying the Syrian Golan Heights since 1967. Assad Sr., which is Hafiz Assad, was the defense minister at that time in 1967. He was not a president yet, or a ruler, because he was never a president. He was the defense minister. He was the one to blame that Syria lost that land to Israel at that war. As a defense minister, he ordered the Syrian army to run away from its powerful strategic positions without a fight, and also without any military reason. Here is a defense minister in a war asking his army to run away for no reason. Even some Israeli leaders wrote in their memoirs, like, they didn't believe at the beginning that the Syrian army is withdrawing from the Golan Heights because there was no reason, military reason for the Syrian army to withdraw. But the military got to follow the orders of the defense minister, and they did. And that's why most of the Syrians believe that Assad Sr. or Hafiz Assad committed treason by doing so. But instead of taking him to court, the man was awarded by becoming the next ruler of Syria, of course by a military coup. Even though the Golan Heights is just about 1% the size of Syria, but it has a great economic and strategic value. It has a huge drinking water reservoir and some of the most fertile lands. The two Assads, Hafiz and Bashar, didn't make any serious effort or show any serious interest in returning that lost part back to the motherland. That is another reason why the humiliated Syrians feel angry with their regime. Now, Israel, from its side, as the occupier, doesn't feel that it has to return the occupied land when the Syrian leaders don't care about it. Like, they don't want it, why should I give it back to them? I keep it. Israel, on the other hand, knows that if the current Assad is gone, then the new government wants to reopen the file of the Golan Heights. From this perspective, the Israelis prefer to live next door to a vicious dictator who let them keep his country's land than having a democratic government that will ask for its land back. This said in brief. In brief, Israel considers Assad as the best enemy it can have. And if we look carefully into the relation between both Israel and Assad, we find out that they only fight by words and threats, and only through the media. Each one of them serves the interest of the other. Here's an interesting point. Some may ask, okay, what about the free world? The answer is very clear, unfortunately, and it is sad too. The answer is the policy of the United States and the European countries cannot ignore the interest of Israel in the Middle East. They want to be sure that the regime which will come after Assad will not bother Israel about the Golan Heights or about any other issue. This means simply that Syria, by being a neighbor to Israel, is why the Western countries are not interfering the same way they did in Libya. Yes, they are supporting the Syrians, but only in humanitarian supplies to the refugees, diplomatic and economic punishments against Assad, and also fiery statements and condemnations from the media. But we have also to mention that valuable help to the Syrian Revolution and the civilian victims comes from regional countries like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Libya, and Jordan. Goodbye, huh? Meanwhile, and after 2 years from the beginning of the revolution, the bloodbath by Assad continues. The Syrian people are still fighting for freedom and democracy to remove that one-of-a-kind sectarian barbaric regime which ruled them for more than 40 years. Meanwhile, the world society will in the future remember this human massacre with shame because it didn't unite to stop it. History will register that the whole world put its interests above hundreds of thousands of innocent Syrian human lives. Most of the world countries have to offer just lies and crocodile tears.